And welcome everybody to the Huddle. It is K-Gun 9's streaming sports talk show. It's weekly. We join you every week at this time, Tuesday at 3 o'clock, Tucson time that is. I'm Jason Barr, joined by Pat Parris. As always, Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well, Jason. A lot of exciting stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, we'll start with U of A football. Pat, certainly any win over a Pac-12 team is a good win, but this was a game they needed to win. Was a game against just a terrible Colorado team that fired its coach after the game, a Colorado team that had lost 4 games in a row by more than 25 points going in, a Colorado team that was as bad as it can be. So, yes, nice win. Great to see a record-tying performance by Jayden de Laura. But at the same time, also, it doesn't tell me anything different or anything I didn't know about this U of A football team.
No, I think you summed it up perfectly. You needed to win this game. It was great that they looked impressive on offense to win this game. They definitely had to take care of business against Colorado. Colorado fires their coach. We all expected that to happen. This was the kind of game that you wanted to see them take some steps forward. I think they did offensively. I still think there's some question marks about defense, and we can get into that, and we'll see as it unfolds over the next 5 weeks, it's a monster schedule right here in the middle, Jason. It's a toughie. It's really the teeth of the Pac-12 best teams, and you've got them all right in a row. So we'll see how it goes. But you've got to win the games you're supposed to win. That something that didn't happen last year. It's happening this year, and I applaud them for that.
This 5-game stretch coming up, as you alluded to, totally separates itself from the other 2 parts of the schedule. They have the toughest games coming up. You've got Oregon and Stanford and UCLA, USC, and Washington, I believe, are the 5 teams. If they win 1-4, Pat, I would take it. They would have 4 wins. They'd be 4-6 going into the final 2 games, home against Washington State with a pumped-up Jayden de Laura going up against his old team, and then home against ASU, I believe, to finish it up with a chance to go 6-6. I'd take it. I'd sign for 1-4 right now, and because this is just a murderous schedule, this part of it, and it starts Saturday with an Oregon team ranked 12th in the nation. They've scored 40 points in a row for several straight games. Bo Nix, a terrific quarterback. This is going to be a very difficult time for Arizona on Saturday.
They will need to have the type of offensive performance they had against Colorado, and that's going to be difficult because Oregon is obviously a much higher level up than Colorado's defense. But their defense, the Wildcat defense, really needs to make a huge stride towards becoming, that unit that we thought maybe we would see. At times we've seen it up front, but we're not seeing it consistently enough up front, and we're certainly not seeing it. The linebackers filling in those gaps when the run plays are headed their way. We're not seeing maybe some of the defensive backs make those plays that you want to see. They're making some plays occasionally, but Jason, they got to make more of those kind of plays if they have any chance of being an Oregon or a Utah or a UCLA or a Washington or a USC. It's a monumental task. It's not impossible, but we're going to have to see a lot more from this defense and a lot of improvement.
Well, the big plays I think they come up with sometimes. You see they have many more takeaways than they did last year. It's just, in between the 20s where they're really struggling and giving up the big yards. You even saw it on a couple of plays against Colorado. There was a 3rd and 16. They converted on a screen pass, something like that. And yeah, the defense has a lot of holes in it. And yes, give them credit for, creating the takeaways, which I couldn't do last year. But they've got players, they've got names on this defense and guys who make plays. Keon Barrs looks like a stud there at defensive tackle, and they got a couple guys who in the secondary who could make some plays. But Traden Stukes, but they just between the 20s, they just give up too many yards, and the takeaways that they are coming up with, that Jackson Turner does come up with, aren't making up for how they're playing, the rest of the way.
Yeah, exactly. How about we check out a couple of these people who've messaged us so far, Jason. Fernando says Colorado didn't stand a chance. They really didn't, and neither did their head coach, unfortunately. You hate to see coaches get fired, Jason, no matter what. It's bound to happen at a school like Colorado that has just been struggling. And then Jess here says the Wildcats did what they needed to do. The next game will show us exactly who we are and how far we've come.
Well, to that extent, Pat, they've beaten a Mountain West team. They beat an FCS team, a good one. They beat an FCS team, and they beat a really bad Pac-12 team at
Right.
home. But is this team at a level where they can win a legitimate Pac-12 game against a really tough it's a really tough team? And listen, upsets happen. We see upsets all the time. It's doable, but that would be the next step for this team to take.
Yeah, and I think, as I mentioned, and I just want to bring this up real quick. Jayden de Laura had a heck of a game. Obviously, he threw for 6 touchdowns, threw for 400 and what was it, 480 yards or 460 yards. That
5
kind of
different receivers
performance,
caught touchdown passes.
yeah, that kind of performance deserved Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week. He didn't get it. They gave it to UCLA's quarterback. UCLA had the big win. I get it. I understand it. I think it's a shame that he didn't win that award because when do you see a quarterback throw for 6 touchdowns, all those yards, and dominate? I don't care who you're playing. That's a worthy award.
That's the thing, though, Pat. They took points away, I think, because it was against Colorado.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm just saying it's a shame when something like a UCLA pulling an upset gets them that. It was bad timing for him to have that kind of game, I guess. And I'm not really upset about it. Even Jed Fish yesterday, before we knew who won the Pac-12 award, said he expected Jayden de Laura to win the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week because he had such great performance. It didn't work out that way. Oh, well, go out this week and put up big numbers against Oregon and have your defense, take a big step forward, and maybe you've got a chance. Somewhere, I'm with you, Jason, somewhere over this next 5 weeks, they're going to be in a game down at the end, and we'll see if this team can pull one out that a lot of people didn't expect them to win.
Yeah, like I said, I want one of these next 5 go into those final 2 games with a shot with those final 2 home games.
But you got to remember, expect to win. They got to step on the field expecting to win. That's another one of the mantras of Jed Fish: expect to win.
Yeah, but that doesn't help you. That doesn't help you tackle Bo Nix.
No.
Maybe it does psychologically, but I don't buy into as much of that coach speak. But yeah, so that's what I'm looking for Arizona football. To the basketball team and the Red Blue, Pat, that was a sloppy game. That was really sloppy stuff. I mean, my takeaways are, I do think you can take stuff away from a Red Blue game. It looks like Henry Vasar is going to be a player. Yeah, I don't know, Pat, if he's going to start right away because you got Umar Ballo and you got Azuolas Tubelis. So you already have 2 bigs there in the front court. I don't know that he's going to go with 3 bigs, at least in the starting lineup there. So maybe we see Henry Vasar coming off the bench. But it looks like he is going to live up to, hopefully, the billing that he comes here with as being one of those top European prospects going into the NCAA play.
Well, by the way, it was certainly star-studded Friday night at the Red Blue game, wasn't it? All kinds of former Wildcats stars coming back for that one. I give them a lot of slack and a lot of leeway here, Jason. This is really early to have the Red Blue game.
It's like their 4th practice. Yeah,
exactly. And I think we were watching a practice where they said, let's go have a scrimmage. And, oh, by the way, let's put, thousands and thousands of people in there to watch. So that kind of stuff's going to happen. I think, as you mentioned, there's a couple of players that stood out. I think Vasar is one of them. And I think that the fact that you've got all those bigs means you're going to continue now in the second year of Tommy Lloyd developing these big men and getting them ready for Pac-12 play and dominating Pac-12 play. And I think Azuolas Tubelis, to me, he's the guy that, while he was already one of their best players last year, I think he'll take another step forward in his game. And that means bigger and better things even still for him. Here's a guy who, whether it was a little tweak injury or maybe just a little overwhelmed in the moment of the Pac-12, the NCAA tournament, I think that's another year for him to mature. I think it's another year for him to get better and develop. So I think I expect really big things from Azuolas Tubelis this year. And I think the Wildcats, while they may not be, ranked number 2 in the country and get the number 2 overall number 1 seed, I still think they're going to be a really, really good basketball team. And who knows, without the pressure of being a number 1 seed, maybe we'll talk about this way later in the year about where we think they're going to go and all. But maybe they make a deeper tournament run just because they're not going to have that bullseye on their back. Everybody picked Arizona to win the national championship, or at least Arizona to face Gonzaga or what, that's a lot of pressure. Now you got a team that maybe is a little bit less in the national spotlight, and that could help them.
All right, Jesse Conrad. Great to see AJ Bramlett, Jason Terry, DeAndre Ayton, and Lowry Markkinen all in one place. Made my night. Well, that's good to hear. That's exciting for the fans to see them come back. We saw one good pass from Courtney Ramey. Not that he's not capable of more, but there was one good pass there.
One good pass.
One good pass. At least we saw that. He figures to start in the backcourt with Kirk Kriisa.
Right.
I think Pell Larson will have that other spot just based on how well he played last year. You hate to lose him coming off the bench, but if he's worthy of being a starter, he's worthy of being a starter. And I think you're going to see Tubelis start with Ballo, and I think you'll see Vasar come off the bench. And that's along with Cedric Henderson Jr. and a couple other guys.
But that's a pretty good 5, 6, 7. You've already talked about 7 guys. That's a pretty good lineup, Jason. In this age of rosters turning over so quickly, be it 3 NBA draft picks from last year off this team, or the transfer portal, you give some away and you bring some back. So I think that's a pretty good lineup for this day and age for Pac-12 basketball.
Yeah. So still a ways away, November 7th against Nicholls State. So, yeah, I think officially, Pat, that actually did count as a practice. They have so many practices they can do, and I think that was practice 3 or practice 4. So, yeah, no, if a fan's out there and is like, and is seeing the same thing I saw, which was, boy, that team looked really sloppy, right? Okay, well, there's maybe a reason why. So, I think Dylan Anderson will get some minutes as well. Kylan Boswell. So we'll see how the rotation shakes out. So yeah, that's really my takeaway is a sloppy team. Vasar looks good, and we need to see more.
Yeah, and we will. And it's one of those situations, Jason, where we always say you learn more in a loss than a win. I'm not, you in this case it's not a loss or a win, but you play a little sloppy. Guess what you're talking about next practice? They're going to tighten things up, and that'll be one of the teaching moments as they look back at that game film and they move on. They probably practiced another 3 times since then, so they probably have a lot of that cleaned up.
Were you there, or did you watch on TV?
No, I watched on TV because I was anchoring that. Well, no, I was out at Old Tucson first, and then I watched.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if you caught it when they were interviewing Tommy Lloyd during the game, and you could see he was like looking over at the game. He's like, "What is going on, man?" And the last question, he was like, "Get me out of this interview."
But remember back when whatever sport you were like in the 3rd practice of that season. Could you imagine having to have 10,000 or 8,000 people show up and watch you practice and try to look great? I mean, it's not fair to really read too much into that, I guess.
Yeah. I want to touch on one other thing, Pat, and that's the Alex Bowman injury. So, Alex Bowman, for those who don't know, NASCAR driver, drives the 48 car, one of the premier teams in the sport for Hendrick Motorsports, backed into a wall a week and a half ago at Texas Motor Speedway. That's got to be the most impactful way to crash, is to back in the wall. And some video came out from the in-car camera. NBC showed it in the pre-race show on Tuesday, on this past weekend, where you could see he's visibly hurt and shaken. And that's really odd and a shame, because they've got a problem here with this car. By the way, the other NASCAR connection to Tucson right now is Kurt Busch, who is the former NASCAR champion, attended U of A, big U of A basketball fan. He's been out the last couple months with concussion-like symptoms. So it's something they've got to get squared away. As of right now, as we record this, we don't know if Bowman's going to be back in the car at the Roval this weekend at Charlotte. So, we hope he gets well soon, and we hope NASCAR gets this figured out, because they spent a lot of money on research and development. This should not be happening with this next generation car.
Well, and that's the unfortunate thing, Jason. You're right. They spend millions and tens of millions of dollars in researching, designing, and then testing these cars, this next gen car. And you suddenly, your emphasis all along has been driver safety, right? It's always the number one priority, and especially with head injuries and head and neck injuries, because we've seen how devastating that can be, and it results in death occasionally, unfortunately. And then to have this car underperform in those areas, seemingly, now right now we don't want to overspeak about what it is, but NASCAR's looking into this, and they've got to be concerned to have this come about, a next generation car actually be less safe when it comes to head injuries potentially. That's just not right. And you see the other motorsports, and I look towards Formula One right now because I love watching Formula One now too. And I know it's obscure for some people because it's on, especially in Tucson, it's on so early in the morning, but I DVR it. That sport, just like the Indy cars, yes, they're open wheel, but they've come up with that big cage that goes around them now. It's never been safer. Formula One has never been safer. You never see guys get, I'll knock on wood, seriously injured in that sport. And you're talking about NASCAR, that's a big stock car, right?
Yeah.
You would think that they would be able to design this, but for whatever reason, this car is not dissipating that energy of hitting the walls like it's supposed to. And unfortunately, that goes right into the driver.
Yeah, plus the car fires too, and we just saw one
Yep.
in Talladega this past
Right.
weekend.
Right.
That's the most
When's the
dangerous
last time you
thing.
heard about that? It's been a while.
I mean, if you're upside down and it's hard to get out of that car, that's not good. I mean, it sounds like it's a few steps forward, one step back, because you did mention the F word, the fatality. There, knock on wood, there actually has not been one in a top level race or practice since Daytona of 01. There's been some bad injuries, and obviously Ryan Newman, hit driver's side at Daytona a couple of years ago was one. But it sounds like they've taken a step backward, and that's something they got to get fixed. They got to get fixed right away. All right. So the other topic here, sometimes, Pat, when we go into the huddle each week, and I let everybody know, hey, this is what we're going to be talking about, and I kind of said something half serious, half kidding, that would be talking about Tom and Gisele. And they put it in the tweet that we were going to talk about it. And so once something is teased, meaning it's mentioned ahead of time that we're going to talk about it, we have to do it. So, Pat, you're not a big celebrity person. I'm not. This story actually does interest me, and I'll tell you why. But I know you're in the camp of who cares. By the way, real quick, shout out to the Arizona Diamondbacks. The end of baseball season, NL West had it rough. Hey, listen, a lot better than last year.
Yeah.
That's
there were moments.
Sure.
They had their moments, Jason, and it is a very young team. It is very young.
Yeah.
So
Zach
we'll
Gallen
see. There's promising things.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, we should mention the Diamondbacks. We're in the middle of this Tom and Gisele thing, so we'll come back to the D-backs if we've got a minute here at the end. So basically, the reason I would say it interests me, Pat, is because there are some celebrity marriages that don't, like when you hear about a celebrity breakup, generally you think, oh, well, yeah, I'm not surprised, or boy, you could see that coming. But there were a couple that I would say were not supposed to end. And that would be Tim McGraw and Faith Hill and Tom and Gisele. And it hasn't ended yet. The report is Gisele hired a divorce lawyer. Okay, so we don't know for sure. Things can get worked out, and cooler heads can prevail. Is it likely? Probably not, but it can happen. But I think that's where it hits me. Yes, it's part that. It's part also the best athlete of our generation as well.
And I understand
That's like,
why
who
people
cares?
No, my initial reaction is, really, we're going to talk about this, or we're going to go that in depth on it. I get why people are fascinated with Tom Brady and Gisele. It goes back to the days with the Patriots, and she was a little outspoken, and she got mad and waiting for elevators when they lost games, and that kind of stuff. It's almost like Meghan Markle in a way, that you get this fascination with royalty and leaving the royalty. And in this case, I get it. I get that people care. But the bottom line is, Tom Brady retired. Everything was hunky dory. Tom Brady decided to come back. It seemed from the outside to be, maybe the final straw, or a moment where they had time to reflect, and they've kind of split up for now, and it's too bad, because somebody should be able to do what they want to do as long as they possibly can do it, especially at the level Tom Brady is. I don't know all of the inner workings. I don't know about their kids and what he promised them, and if he's missing out on things. And I, as a dad who has a career and had to watch my kids and try to keep up with them as I'm doing I understand how hard it is. And the mother gets a lot of the responsibility. But come on, it's Gisele. she's got others to help her. I mean, so anyway, I'm just
All right, so
at
you do
the
have some
point
thoughts
where
on this, Pat.
it's too bad. It's unfortunate. Let Tom Brady have his final year. We'll see if it works out for him. Right now, it's not looking so good for him.
All right, so you do have some thoughts. I mean, that's my thought.
Well,
Is if
as a
you're
dad and
if
you know,
you're
I've been down this road.
right, I'm not married. You are, but my thought is, if you're married, you're thinking decades down the road. His football career is probably going to be over in 14 weeks.
Right.
15, 16 weeks tops. There's supposed to be another 30, 40, 50 years after that. I can't believe that. To me, there's got to be more issues than
Oh, I'm sure.
just him playing for another year.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's going out drinking with his buddies here.
No.
He's not out getting drunk on a golf course in the middle of the day when he needs a job, or he should be at a practice. Sharon Spies, enough already.
Yep.
I don't know if she means us talking about it enough already, or
probably enough.
All right, we got a couple of minutes here. You pick the subject, Pat.
Well, first of all, Curtis Chin and Jose Sasaya. Curtis Chin, the Sugar Skulls head coach, the new head coach, and Jose Sasaya, our morning anchor, share the same birthday today. Happy birthday to both of them. Just wanted to give them a shout out.
All right, happy birthday.
Yeah. It's also National Taco Day, apparently. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. It seems like there's a taco day 52 times a year with the Taco Tuesday.
Well, it's 50.
Guess what, Pat?
Yeah.
I had tacos today.
Oh, good for you.
I had them for lunch unknowingly. We also got the Mexican baseball fiesta this week at Keno. They had the highest attendance last year, probably because they missed a year because of COVID, but still, highest attendance. We're going to do a story on that for our Hispanic Heritage Special. And I watched the Cardinals game. Did you watch the Cardinals against?
I did.
Yeah, boy, and I talk about also a game you needed to win. Good for them that they stepped up and took charge of that second half.
Completely different halves in that game, but you're right. You have to do that, and that division right now is just wide open, Jason. It's anybody's for the taking, and really kind of who would have thought that. So, but it is. What, isn't everybody 2-2 in that division?
Yeah, I believe so.
I think so.
JJ Watt was JJ Swat. Terrific catch by Hollywood Brown. He and Hopkins will be a great combo if they can just stay healthy when Hopkins comes back, which is only in 2 more games, I believe, 6-game suspension. So if they can just stay healthy, JJ Watt, a big health scare there. They got to stay healthy, but the defense stepped up when it needed to against Carolina. So that was good because they did not look good. They were the only team going into week 4 or their 4th game that had a lead in either their first 3 games.
Right.
Remember, they won on the last play in overtime for their 1 win. So, now they're 2-2 with only having a lead.
And they're going on the road to Carolina, and Baker Mayfield looks like a complete and total, I won't say disaster. He looks like he's completely hapless right now.
Yeah.
And that's not what Carolina picked him up for. But that's the kind of game, Jason, road wins are never easy in any level of football, but in NFL, going on the road can always be a little bit of a challenge. But for the Cardinals, you got to get that win. That's one where you can suddenly get to 3-2, and now things are looking a lot different than they were when they were struggling a couple of weeks ago.
They thrive on the road. It's now been a year and a half of this.
Yeah,
2-0 on the road, 0-2 at home. Last year they were like 8-1 on the road, I think.
Yeah,
not including that playoff loss to the Rams.
And that doesn't make any sense at all. I mean,
really?
That just doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
I'm not
sure
sure why.
I'm sure Kingsbury's getting asked more about that tomorrow on Wednesday. So we'll find out about that. But yeah, so we're going down here. As we talked about before, sports is very seasonal in Tucson, and we go from the slowest time of the year, which is July, to right now. Next couple of weeks, we start to get into the busiest time of the year.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is we have U of A basketball, women's basketball, football. We've got the high school football, and we've got the Tucson Roadrunners. And so we kind of have everything kind of going here at the end of the FC Tucson season. And so it gets into a busiest time. So,
and then nationally, you've got baseball playoffs, you've got the NHL and NBA starting up while you're talking NFL. So it gets really busy now.
Yeah, looking forward to having everything going on, and a busy month of October. And so we'll talk about Tateroa McMillan's one-hand catches Today.
Oh yeah.
Today at 6 o'clock. Yeah, he talked about that today.
You know, the only thing that's a shame with the way the offense is going right now is there just aren't enough footballs to go around enough. You know, you got Jacob Cowing, who literally could make a dozen catches a game, right? I mean, he's always open. You always need him to be open because he's a great player to have coming out of the slot. And then you've got Tedero McMillan, who is open a lot too. It's just, you know, he's just a different kind of receiver, but man, he can go up and make some spectacular catches. And I'm like, you know, they got Wiley, it goes on and on. They've got so many weapons, Jason.
Well, they've got one less weapon. Alex Lyons, the tight end, left the team. He got beat out by Tanner McLaughlin for the starting tight end position. And so, you know, he's also got Kean Burnett kind of right behind him as a star freshman. So who knows what went behind the scenes, but Kean Burnett is now going to be moved up to number 2 on the depth chart behind Tanner McLaughlin. So, but yeah, you know, definitely those 3 wide receivers have stepped up and, you know, established themselves as the top 3 receivers. And they had a couple of different types of running backs you always want to have. You know, DJ Williams is a tougher type of back. So yeah, so we'll finish it off here where we began it with Arizona football against Oregon. I think the line was like 10 or 11. I think it started at 11, went to 10, then was up to 13 last I saw. So yeah, you think about all these points, but then you look at the final scores of these games and I mean, you were saying last week, boy, Arizona, you know, boy, 17 points, it's a lot, but sure enough, they won by 23, you know. And so you might say, well, Oregon's giving up a lot of points this week, 13, but really, would it really surprise you if Oregon won, 35-17? Who would be surprised by that? That's an 18-point win. So
although the one thing they have going for them, Jason, that for whatever reason, Arizona football in the last decade has done a great job against Oregon, knocking them off occasionally. What I think 3 of the last 7 meetings Arizona has won, and it's one of these kind of scenarios too. Oregon comes in now ranked 12th in the country and playing some good football. Arizona's, you know, scrappy, trying to find their way. Who knows? Who knows?
Upsets happen. They can get one of these games. I know it. Yep. So, all right. So that's this Saturday at 6 o'clock. And this has been this week's version of the Huddle, live here on all the platforms, and then delayed too. You can watch it later in the week where we get a lot of viewers for sure. So for Pat Parris, Pat, it's been a good one. I'm Jason Barr. We'll be right back here at this time next week talking more Arizona football, basketball, and maybe a reconciliation for Gisele and Tom. We'll see.
We'll see.
All right, everybody. It's been the Huddle. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.